Welcome to Keyframers, the animated collaborative coding live stream where we bring imaginative user interfaces to life. I'm your host, Stephen Shaw, but you may know me as @Shashaw.
And I'm your host, David Khourshid, also known as @DavidKPiano.
Together we are coding compadres, animation amigos, Boolean buddies, and keyframe companions.
Yeah, so we'll be creating an animation from scratch live using, of course, HTML, CSS, and a small bit of JavaScript, maybe a little bit more than usual today.
Yeah, all the usual tools. And Keyframers is made possible by your support. Get special shoutouts as we stream by pledging on Patreon, subscribing on Twitch, or donating at streamlabs.com/keyframers.
Yeah, and of course, we'll be happy to answer any questions you may have, so reach out in the Twitch chat or in the YouTube comments if you're watching this later.
That's right. How's your week been, David?
It's been good. It's been really rainy this week. It's almost the start of hurricane season, so we're getting like remnants of what could possibly be interpreted as a tropical system or something, and so that's just pouring water all week. I saw ducks in the road, while driving, swimming.
Swimming along with you as you were driving?
Yeah, it was insane. It was cool.
That does sound insane. Wow. I hope you didn't hit them.
I didn't. No.
Okay, good.
That's illegal. Can't do that.
Anything you've been working on this week?
Yeah, you know what? I have a code pen planned, just one of my personal projects, but I'm not going to reveal that quite yet. Maybe I'll show it next week or something.
I'll keep it on the
down. How about you?
Don't worry. Well, yeah, working on a lot of things that aren't quite ready for prime time yet. Been playing with a little bit of physics, like you were helping me with earlier in the week. And
I saw that, yeah. Some string physics going on. We might have to do an episode with that sometime.
Entitled String Theory. Yeah, that site is going to be quite killer. You'll see something from that in the next.
Oh, it's an actual site,
an
actual project.
Yeah,
cool.
There's a lot of interesting things that are going to come from that.
Nice.
Well, speaking of work, what are we working on today, David?
Well, I'm actually really excited for this animation because guess what? We're not doing sliding layers today at all.
In theory. In theory.
We'll
probably
we always end up running into this sliding layers thing, which is why if you watch our previous episodes, you're going to see why it's such a useful technique, especially for performance animations. But this animation sort of deviates from the previous animations we've done. It's essentially a really, really cool speedometer, right? Speedometer, odometer, it's one of those things.
Speedometer, yeah.
Yeah, okay. We'll do that.
The title of it is Luxury Speedometer for Cluster Design by Gleb. I don't know how to pronounce that last name, but amazing designer. A lot of other really interesting dribbles out there. I've posted the link in the chat for those following along, and yeah, super interesting.
Yeah. Gleb Kuznetsov, I guess.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
He's from the Russian city of San Francisco. Oh, that's in California. Just kidding. Okay. Well, he does some amazing work. So I've actually done a couple of his dribbles. They might still be in private pens, but he's also done work for Fantasy as well. And if you know Fantasy, they are a really killer interactive graphics and design agency.
I have not stumbled across them. I'll have to check them out. If it's anything like this, then that's very impressive stuff. So yeah, we've got a little bit of a speedometer going here. Quite a few different elements.
A lot of elements.
Yeah. Let's go into the GIF scrubber view so we can get a little bit slower of a look at things here. I've got it playing half speed so we can see. All right, we've got the actual needle, I guess we would call that, that's moving along in an arc around the circle, like speedometers do. We've got this interesting background pattern here that I like, and then Obviously, a speedometer is going to have some numbers, so these numbers are kind of doing a slide-in effect, which is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so definitely a lot of different elements to this, and a lot of different techniques that we're going to be seeing both in the CSS side and the JavaScript side as well, because obviously something has to control those numbers updating. So
that's right.
Yeah.
Okay. So should we get into coding?
Let's get into it.
Right. So, of course, as usual, we are using the CodePen collab view so that we can be working on the same piece of code at the same time.
Amazing technology.
It is. And as per usual, David has position relative on everything for some reason. And
I like it.
And a few other things in place. So we've got our.
Do you know how many bugs that has caused? I mean, fixed? Like a lot.
About as many as it has caused.
One door closes, another door opens.
Okay. So you had an interesting idea for what this speedometer could actually be reading.
Yeah, so let me just add that real quick. We're going to put a range input in here. And so actually let's make this flex direction row just so it shows up under that.
Mm-hmm.
And so this darn, it's not column. Man, I always get the two confused. That's like a terrible thing to get confused, column and row. And so in order to adjust the speed for now, we're going to be using this range input just to, just a standard thing. However, if we have time later, I'd like to do it based on the actual mouse speed, like as we're moving the mouse around. But we'll, leave that for later.
Yes, I'm very much interested in that concept. I think that'd be a cool result.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I'm just checking some things on the stream. Everything. Well, we recently turned on the low latency for the stream, which means you should be able to interact with us in almost real time. So when you post things, that should. Hey, we just got an alert. Rosie Bob just subscribed. Thank you so much, Rosie Bob. Definitely appreciate that.
Thanks, Rosie Bob.
And Rosie Bob is using Twitch Prime, which is a very cool feature if you already have Amazon Prime that allows you to just toss a subscription our way at no cost, no extra cost to you. And you can do that each month with Amazon Prime and Twitch Prime. So please do that if you're so inclined. And thank you very much, Rosie Bob. Okay, so you've inputted a range here.
Yeah, so now we have to figure out how to read values from the range, and that's going to be the interesting part. So I'm going to be using a library called RxJS. It's a reactive streams library. If you read the docs, you're going to think, oh my God, this is one hell of a learning curve. Like you would rather climb Mount Everest backwards on just your hands than try to learn RxJS. But it's really a lot simpler than it seems. I promise.
I will take your word for it.
All right, so to give you a quick example, let's go in the JavaScript tab. I believe I have RxJS already loaded. Yes, I do. Perfect.
Yes.
All right, so let's add our beautiful console.clear first of all. And so I'm going to get this range element, so equals document, if I could spell, query select selector and oh, I like query selector because I don't like typing get elements by ID because I never know if it's I and D that are both capitalized or if it's just the I and the D is lowercase, and that scares me. So I don't really.
Yeah, the camel casing there is very confusing throughout of the node interfaces.
All right. Let's see. I think I could do. So I have arcs.js loaded in, which is on the Windows. So I could do const. Let's call this values equals arcs.js dot from events, and this is going to take two arguments. Let's make this L range. L range, and we're going to do change event. And then let's subscribe to those values. Subscribe, let's just console.log what those values are. And I think if you open the console, it's going to actually show like some like log skip, sorry, it was too large. So if you show
Yes.
if you show the actual console, then you're going to get the raw events, right?
Yes, very raw.
All right, cool. Yeah. So from those, we want to get the value. And we could do that if you consider observables, just like it's like an array, but it's an array of values that come in over time. So instead, we could do arcs.js from this event, and then we pipe. And so pipe might be a little weird, but it's just basically the same as using a dot operator. Like, you know how you do a dot map, dot reduce, whatever. So that's all available from dot pipe. So arcs.js dot operators dot map, and I'll clean this up, I promise. So from the event, we want the event dot target dot value. All right, so now dot subscribe. Now, if you open the Code10 console right now and play around with the range,
Got it open. Yeah, I'm getting some values here.
You'll see actual numbers, which is really, really, really good. That's awesome. So now let's make it simple, and let's, all right, I'm going to map this to a number actually, because of course these should be numbers. And instead of just logging, we're going to be updating the speed. So I used an ID. Using IDs is not the worst thing in the world if there's only one of them. I mean, that's what IDs are for. L speed equals query select your speed. All right, so L speed dot inner HTML equals, just give it E. Okay. So now go ahead and change the range. Whoa.
Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that at all.
Nice. It's like an old black and white film.
That reminds me. Here and set and all for funsies.
All right, fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah. So it's uploading. Updating.
It's uploading.
It's updating as expected.
Yeah, that means that things are working, which is good. And yeah, so you could basically see, if you squint your eyes, like this is very much like array operations. If you consider each of these range values like part of an array that happens over time, we're just mapping over the events and grabbing the values. So if you have any questions about this, please ask in the Twitch chat, because I'd love to explain it on this episode as I work, because some of this stuff might get a tiny bit hairy, but you're going to see how it actually results in a lot less code than we would do otherwise. Now, so that's my elevator pitch.
One of the things I would appreciate some clarification on. So the pipe you said the pipe operator is really just like a plumbing pipe that you're sending the values down, not like the actual pipe, like or operator.
So for a little bit of context, in older versions, if you look at the JavaScript code, in older versions of RxJS, you could just call from events and then .map. And so that works just as expected, because all of the operators were on the, the prototype chain. So you could just call .map, .filter, whatever. The problem with that is that RxJS has so many operators. And so if you imported RxJS, it would be like 120 kilobytes or something minified, which is insane. But you're never going to use 99% of those operators. So instead, like in the newest version, they thought, oh, yeah, just have import each of the operators separately so that you could keep your bundle sizes small. And so then they're just raw functions. And then you'd put those into pipe. Right. So, yeah. So it's...
We just got another subscribers. Hide His Foot is now... is following us. Thank you very much for following.
Hey, thank you, Hides His Foot. I hide my foot sometimes, too. I put them in shoes.
You do as well.
Yeah, it's a good way to... Yeah, comfortable place.
App called Color Slurp.
Color Slurp. So I use Digital Color Meter. It's a very old school app. I've been using it for many years, but it works. I'll check out this Color Slurp though. It has a very weird name, but
yeah,
that's okay.
It's just a little Mac app that lives in the menu bar that you click, and it gives you the eyedropper for anywhere on the screen.
Gotcha. Yeah, this one sort of does the same thing too. So.
Okay. So I'm just working on the background here. If you want to start maybe on the number animation while I'm doing that.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that. So yeah, what I'm adding in the JavaScript, if you could see the JavaScript.
Yes, I've got
it. Okay, cool. Is I have a tick thing here, and so this is going to represent every single animation frame, but it's not going to do it in the way that you're used to doing animation frames. Instead, again, think of it as a stream of values, and this is going to be a stream that emits, I think it just emits null every single animation frame.
In the chat, we have a question. David, so today no state machine, right?
No state machine, not today.
Woo! Well, we'll see. It's not over yet.
Hey, one day. Well, no. We won't need a state machine for this. I know I go on and on about state machines, but
is your state machine stuck in a loop?
Actually, with this, like, state machines are very much like just this whole concept of events-based programming and programming with values that happen over time. And state machines are sort of tied into that as well. But anyway, we won't really get into that.
We got another new follower, Tootsie, I believe it was. Yeah,
Toasty.
Hey, from the Animation Network Slack. Glad to have you aboard.
Hey, Toasty. It's Toasty in Florida right now.
Toasty cheered a few bits our way. I'm not super familiar with Twitch, but I know the bits are a good thing for us. Greatly appreciated.
Thank you so much for the bits. I will one day learn what those are. All right, so we have these ticks. Happens every animation frame. And so we're going to use those to do what is called lerping. And
LARPing?
So lerping, not LARPing.
No.
So I actually talked about this in the CodePen Houston meetup, the one that I gave online, that the very special Keyframers series.
That's right.
If you remember. You remember because
I remember. I was there.
Yeah, you all had pizza. You never gave me a pizza though. So you owe me a pizza.
Deal.
All right, cool. And just a refresher, LERP stands for something, I don't know, but it's basically linear interpolation.
Yes.
Which, so I get the L, but the ERP I don't get it. Anyway, they call it lerping. So what it is, it's just like, let's say you want to go from point A to point B. Instead of going, teleporting from point A to point B, you might go halfway to point B, and then halfway from point B, and then closer and closer. And so if you could just imagine going only halfway every single time, it's going to be this nice animation where you start fast and then you go really, really, really slow as you approach your animation. Sort of like you're approaching a red light and you're braking your car, right? It's going to decelerate. And so that's exactly what we want for this animation. I see Shaw is adding some BEM. That's
yes.
cool.
We like to mix syntaxes here.
Yeah, it's great. All right, so I'm going to use this lerp to basically we're taking each of these values from the range. So it actually starts at 0. So let me go ahead and just put 0 for the speed, because I mean, hopefully your car doesn't start at 50 miles per hour or something. Otherwise, your garage would be broken. But whenever we change the range, we want to smoothly animate from one value to the other value. So instead of going, for example, from 0 to 50, it's going to go 0 and then speed up all the way to 50. And so that's the effect that we want.
Yes. We got a question in the chat from Lannon BR. What was that documentation Mac app? This is an app I use quite often called Dash documentation or something like that. It's just a universal shortcut to basically pull up all the MDN docs. At least that's primarily how I use it. It also has snippet expansion and a few other handy things, but you can add a bunch of different doc types to it. I mainly use the HTML, CSS, SVG, JavaScript, and Vue ones, but even some libraries like 3.js have support in there, and that's super handy.
That's real cool. I never heard of that, so
definitely worth checking out. I want to say it's $20, but it's literally something I use every day, so it's well worth it.
They're not an official sponsor, by the way. But hey, maybe one day we could have sponsors. We could talk about their cool products.
Yes. So?
I'm totally down with that. Especially you, Green Sock. I know you hear us.
Yeah, Lannon. It is Dash. They released an update not too long ago that kind of changed the appearance of it a little bit, but it's still the same old Dash.
Hey, Shaw, go ahead and play around with the range right now. You see how it's smoothly updating?
Yes, it is.
All right, cool. So yeah, that's the effect we want. And I know I just went from 0 to 60 with 5 lines of JavaScript, but I will explain it. So the first operator we're using is with latest from. So all that means is that it's carrying the value. So we have these ticks, which these ticks happen every single animation frame. And then these values, they update whenever the heck they want to. They don't update, on every animation frame, obviously. But with latest from ensures that these ticks basically carry these values with it. So it's grabbing the latest value and saying, hey, whether you like it or not, you're going to be on every animation frame. So instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, it's going to end up being 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, if that makes sense. Right? It's putting it on every animation frame. And then we use scan, which is just like a reducer, which, all right, another big word. All scan does is it takes an initial state, which is this 0, And then every single time it gets like a value, which comes from this with latest from, it updates this value based on this function. So this function says, let's say I'm at 0, and the next value you give me is 10. This function is saying I'm not going to go to 10. Instead, I'm going to go part of the way to 10. And so you're going to get that nice smooth transitioning effect because of that.
Now, what's the 0 in the lerp function, or in the scan there?
Start at the 0 just means we're starting at 0.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So means accumulate values by doing. Well, I should do like all of my documentation like this, making it more readable. So accumulate values, which means like combine each value that comes in by doing lerp. So just go smoothly to the value instead of going directly to the value and start at 0.
Gotcha.
And then we're going to round those numbers, obviously, because we don't want decimals in here. And actually, there's not going to be any decimals, so we don't really have that. Just because set this,
yes, you do.
I set the step in the range to 1. Oh wait! Oh my God!
Yeah.
What did you do?
So yeah, because you are lerping, you definitely end up with a lot of decimals.
Wait, do that again.
A lot of decimals. Oh geez.
Oh my God! This is like the Matrix.
An idea.
Oh,
and 99999.
Nice. If my car did this, I would start freaking out. I would just pull over to the side of the road.
Yeah, that is definitely not safe in terms of a speedometer readout.
Yeah, and so the last part is completely optional, but I think it's one of the best parts of ArcsJS. Distinct until changed is exactly what it sounds like. It's only going to emit values when they change. So if you have 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, it's going to give you 1, 2, 3, 4. It's not going to repeat values. And so this is really useful for preventing any unnecessary renders. So in just 1, 2, 3, 4 lines of ArcsJS, we have this really cool lerping, number changing animation. And so, yeah. All right. Explain yourself, Shaw.
Give me just a moment to use dash to find the correct form of background clip that it demands. So that's right. I have to use a WebKit prefix and color transparent. Okay. Aha. There we go. So yeah, what I've done here is just attempted a really basic recreation of the kind of pulsing background that's happening through the animation. We could use canvas here. We could attempt this a lot of different ways to get a little more accurate. But since we're on a time crunch, I just kind of wanted to play with it in a little bit different of a way. So I've got this speed BG steady that has a couple of pseudo elements in it inside of a border radius 50 container that's hidden, and it's just gonna kind of spin, and I'm gonna add a little bit of a pulsing to it as well. But for now.
Cool. And speaking of time constraints, we got a pretty cool thing going on, just in the time we've only been doing this for half an hour. And so that's pretty good.
Yeah. There we go. Okay, made it a little more hypnotic here. Infinite. And NBR says, yeah, for the streams I've watched, I'm always impressed how fast we work.
Keep in mind, we prepare very little beforehand.
Yes. Probably prepare more, but hey, this is
we don't need to.
This is improv.
Yeah, and I like doing it this way just because, you know, we want to show you that we're human. We make a ton of mistakes, especially our last episode was a lot of fun. We had some really funny mistakes in our last episode.
Yeah, that was a bit of pain.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we learned a valuable lesson where sometimes it's better to just start over instead of trying to make something work.
Yes. Okay. One thing I didn't explain is the background clip text. So what I did to replicate the dots from the original animation, how they're just kind of pulsing there and doing that cool pattern, I just populated the pseudo elements with a bunch of periods and used a font family that's got a rounded dot, and then used background clip text to get my radial gradient apply to text.
Nice.
I'll continue playing with little bits of that as we go along, but
yeah. So yeah, now I'm working on tweaking the number animation, and then after that, I'm going to move on to the needle. And so, yeah, the needle should be fun. And I think Shaw is going to work on the cool glow effects that happen.
Sure.
Unless he doesn't want to. But I think he does.
Let me see. Let's talk through the needle really quick, because the same thing applies to the glow to a certain extent. So we talked a little bit just in preparation about using some CSS variables, kind of populating that based on the range value.
Yep, and yeah, we actually have that in there. But I do need to add one for for CSS variables. I'm going to add this called progress. Having a number between 0 and 1 is really, really, really helpful.
Yes.
So
which we can get using calc, as long as we have the max value populated in there. But
oh, I'm just doing that.
Yeah.
But yeah, we could use calc as well. But anyway, so we have this progress variable that's going to go on the app element. So it's readily available via var. And that's going to be a value between 0 and 1. So 0 is 0 miles per hour, and 1 would be the max speed, which is 100 miles an hour. Or kilometers an hour if you're watching in Europe, which would be crazy because right now it's like 3 a.m. in Europe.
Yes.
But hey, kudos to you if you're watching in Europe. We appreciate you and we love you.
Okay.
We don't love your GDPR. Well, actually, we sort of do, but it's really a pain in the butt.
They have a lot of humorous releases.
Oh, also, Toasty says that Canada is kilometers an hour. I completely forgot that. Canada is one of the very few countries that uses kilometers an hour. Every single country, you know, besides like 220 of them, use miles an hour, I believe.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, anyway, with the CSS variables, we will have our needle filling pointing at the very bottom when we're at 0, and then it should rotate all the way around the circle to the bottom again to reach 100%. So the one thing we had talked about as well was the way these the kind of tick marks are revealed as you go. They're following in line with the needle.
Oh, like the glow effect.
Well, the glow effect as well follows the needle, but the little tick marks are revealed as the needle goes around. So that's something we need to factor in as well. Why don't you get the needle and rotation set up? I'll start the little tick marks. Just getting those ready.
All right, sounds like a plan. Let's go ahead and do that, and then I'm going to get back on this speed thing. All right, speed needle.
By speed thing, I was being illicit.
Yeah. Whoa, it's off to the side.
Yeah.
No worries. We'll work around that. All right, dot speed needle. All right, so width 50%, height like 1 pixel. Right. Yeah. Actually, no. Height 50%, width 1 pixel. Rotating things are so hard. Let's see. Background color. Make it white. Hopefully we see a needle. Cool, we see a needle. Position absolute. Okay. Left 50%. 50%. Basically, I'm trying to get the needle to the 0 position. Because that's a good place to start. And it is. Perfect. Transform. I'm going to set the transform origin to top center or center top. I always forget the order. Sometimes in CSS, it does X, Y, and sometimes it's like Y, X. I never know which one is which. So
yeah, it's a gamble.
yay. So as you can see, the needle works.
It does.
See?
Hey,
cool.
Look at that.
So that's going to do just fine. You know what? I'm going to get rid of this this
transition.
No, not the transition.
Oh.
Actually, yeah, this should not have a transition. I think it's screwing with the thing.
Yeah, that's fine. I took it off.
Actually, you know what? The transition probably helped.
Well, you can add a specific transition on that if you want. Array, all one word, not separated. Ugh. Why are specs such a mess, David?
Wait, what spec is a mess?
All of them.
Oh, well, yeah.
I think a little closer together. Yes.
Oh.
Okay. So I'm gonna test out the needle again. Okay. Yeah, it definitely needs a transition roughly equal to the lerping.
Yeah, the roughly equal two parts can be tough, but yeah, we can do it. Let's see, transform form. I'm just going to do 0.3 seconds. It's whatever.
It's pretty close.
Too big. It's yay.
Oh, okay. So you're using raw progress.
Yeah. So that's just the. But you know what? I think I might not do that. Instead, I'm going to. Here, I'm going to do this.
Be able just to use the progress variable.
Yeah. But here's the problem with that. If you try it out, it's very choppy. And the choppiness is, it's not because of performance or anything, it's because we're rounding those values.
That's right.
So we're not getting those intermediate values. So in order to solve that, and this is one of the great things about RxJS, we could have like these smooth values here, just like that. And then we could do const smooth rounded values. So have it be two separate things.
Are they really smooth if they're rounded?
Well, these make them even smoother, like real smooth. All right, so now smooth rounded values. All right, so now the number is going to change correctly without any of that. And so I'm going to subscribe to the smooth values, the ones that are not rounded. So yeah, I shouldn't call them smooth values if they're not round. Well, whatever. Well, we'll go with this. They're smooth values, which include the decimals. The smooth rounded values don't include the decimals, if that makes sense.
Sure.
So, okay, now let's try it.
Yeah, that
all right. So,
better.
do you see how much smoother? There we go.
Yeah, that's
thank goodness. Good. And we're going to keep it white because my brain is fried now. Oh, this is fun.
The kind of pulsing background effect.
Oh, you're making it just sort of like pulse in and pulse out.
Yeah.
A little bit. Cool. No, that's me. You know what? I'm learning strategies more and more for like not breaking stuff as I type, like just, putting in some filler code and maybe commenting it out before I'm done. So as we go, I'll work on that.
Really wish you could animate individual transform properties.
One day, or you could nest them into multiple divs, which many people think like, oh no, that's bad and whatever. It works fine. I have nested many levels deep before. It's totally fine. Like, look at some of my codepens. There's a lot of nesting going on, and I don't care.
Changing a bunch of stuff.
Me? Yeah. Yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm putting both the speed and the previous speed inside data attributes so that I could display them via CSS instead of oh, well, now they're wrong. I have to size them correctly. But instead of doing it via like HTML. And that way I have better control over them and over handling multiple values. Whoa, and nice and fast. You know what you could do with CSS variables? You could actually base that on the actual speed of the car. And so that's one of the cool things about CSS variables. Okay.
Hatted Monkey in the chat asks, what program is that? We are just using CodePen, codepin.io, if you haven't used that before. The library that David is using down here is RxJS. For sending over those. Okay.
And yeah, so I have an article on animating with RxJS on CSS tricks. I'll post a link to that in the chat later. Please remind me because I will forget.
If anyone wants to post that in the chat for us, Googling David and RxJS should get you there.
Yeah.
There will be a lot of results.
We'll see. We shall see. All right, thinking about how to do this. So a lot of the stuff we work on is based on just previous CodePens that we've made and techniques that we've learned from those. Tends to work out pretty nicely.
Hey, there's Chris Coyer chiming in on the chat. Oh, but he was beaten by Lannon BR, just barely.
Ooh, all right. By the way, I need to update that article, by the way, because RxJS came out with a new version, and so the syntax, it's a little bit different. This is going to work for RxJS 5, but for RxJS 6, we're going to get a little bit of a different syntax, but not too different, so don't worry. It's not like a crazy change, I promise.
Thank you both for finding that. Definitely appreciate that. Okay. So I've got the little tick marks in here. Oh, we are having some interesting effects when you update the value.
Yeah, so and so this right now is on purpose, and so I'm still thinking through this. But what's going to happen is we want the previous value to fade out and sort of like either go up or down. And right now, just to keep it simple, I'm going to have it just fade out, and we're going to do this as the other value comes in. So they're both going to just fade out, come in at the same time, and so that's the effect that we're going to do.
Yeah.
Don't worry, I'm working through it.
I
right now, it'll look a little funky, but
okay.
But trust me, I will get you up to speed.
While you're working on that, I'm gonna make the needle look a little bit more like the comp with that nice gradient glow that's happening.
Sounds like a plan.
So ignore all the broken things.
Broken things are my fault. No.
Color slurp the tick marks here. Two. Now, when you are styling SVG, do you like to do that in your CSS or have it actually in the SVG?
That's a good question. I mean, for styling, personally, I like to do it in the CSS as much as possible. Sometimes it's not always feasible, especially like if you have like path, the D attribute, that's going to get messy if you do it in this. In fact, I don't even know if you can do it directly in the CSS, but some things go in the SVG, some things go in the CSS. The way I like to separate them is if it defines the shape, like such as, the path D attribute, like which defines where the path goes, then that should be in the SVG. If it has to do with things like colors and just stylistic stuff, then that would go in the CSS. Feel free to chime in the chat if you have any other opinions. My opinions are loosely held, so it doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, yeah, LAN NBR. The low latency seems to be quite helpful. You guys seem to be a little more responsive, which is very nice. Enjoy coding along with you guys. I lose my mouse so often. LANBR.
Tick marks are looking nice.
Thank you. Yeah, Adobe XD went free to play this past week, which is rather cool. Have you done much with XD, David?
No, I have not. I just know XD looks like the laughing weird smiley face. So it's a interesting, name choice. And I know it's a actually, why don't you explain what it is? Because you probably know better than me.
So the smiley face deal, I remember, was one of the chief complaints with Windows XP when it first came out. It was always humorous. But yeah, XD is short for Experience Designer, and that means it's just kind of an Adobe product designed for making UIs, whether that's for an app or for a website. It's kind of a blend between Illustrator and InDesign and Sketch, and I've quite enjoyed it. I haven't used it personally as much as I would like, but all the designers on my team are using it now, and it makes for much easier to build websites because the limited tool set within XD kind of forces them to think through their decisions a little bit more based on like what the web platform can usually do. So I find that quite helpful.
Cool. Lots of products in a very similar space. Don't mind me, I broke something.
Again.
Okay, so you're adding a gradient to the that's cool.
Oh, it probably, yeah, I don't need pseudo. moving. The Command S shortcut in CodePen never works when I do. That may not be an actual shortcut. Maybe I'm just up, but
what to save or?
Yeah.
Hey, you got some America going on. No, you don't. Hey, bring back the America. This is remember, it's miles per hour.
Right.
America.
There we go.
All right, there we go. Looks like one of those America ice cream
actually
things.
France, isn't it?
Yeah, France. Okay, so this, I guess we're going back to kilometers an hour. That's fine.
Save that blue variable. When you are making variable names in your CSS for colors specifically, do you name it what the color is, i.e. Blue? Or
Never. So this is something I learned, like, just, and this is a general style guide thing. And of course, people might disagree because everything in CSS is disagreeable. But I always name them based on the color's purpose or the color's role. So I would have a color dash primary, a color dash secondary. And so that way, the reason I always give is, like, let's say the brand changes, right? And it's like, hey, instead of blue being our primary color, we now have green as our primary color. Then it's just, I don't have to change like color blue. I could just because I've run into, style guides where it's like color blue and then it's like a red color. It's like, wait, why is color blue a red color? And they're like, oh, because color blue was our primary color, but we changed it to red. Like, okay, that makes no sense. Just name it color primary.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my rant.
So one of the things I actually do is a blend of both. So in like my variable setup, I'll have red, green, blue, yellow, blah blah blah, and then I'll have specific accent and primary and alt colors variables that just reference one of those, so that throughout the UI, if I do actually need a specific red and not just whatever the accent or whatever is, I can call that out specifically, and then if the main like color theme of the site changes, that can still be switched around rather easily.
That's fair, I suppose. Yes, I do know the numbers look really, really weird right now, but that's just the way these things go.
Oh man. Okay, so the radial gradient is definitely the way to go. How's that looking? Whoa. Fancy.
Yeah, work in progress, and I'll explain it later.
Yes.
I
figured. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna implement some speed glow while we're here. Needle What's the handy little divider you often use?
Divider?
Yeah, in the code, you use like a inline comment with just a few dashes.
Oh, I literally do double dash and then dashes. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I do.
Yeah, I have a 80 char version that I always use. That's supposed to be, like the max width of the code editor, whatever. But oftentimes I have my code editor thinner than that, so it just ends up line wrapping and looking silly. So I don't know what I'm doing. Ignore me, everyone.
Makes two of us. No
And
worries.
for those separators, I always use the what is it, block comment lines, so that if I'm just pasting it into raw CSS, I don't have to dash dash.
Right.
That's cool, Toasty. Toasty, that you have a nice little badge next to your name to be the bits leader because of those bits you gave earlier. Pretty cool.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I meant to mention this earlier too. If you type in Keyfra1faces in the chat and you are a subscriber, you get our handy little icon as an emoji. You have to be a subscriber, so if you've got that Twitch Prime subscription ready to give, you can do that, and then you can drop our faces in the chat whenever you want.
I just discovered I'm not a subscriber to my own channel.
David.
Our own channel. I know. I will rectify that situation immediately tomorrow. Promise. All right, so just to explain to everyone, I'm doing sort of an illusion here where I have the before and after elements, like controlling the previous number and the current number. And so using CSS variables, I could change which direction that goes and get the illusion in the animation.
It's working surprisingly well.
Sort of. Work in progress. It works best going down, so I need to figure out what's going on there. Oh.
Sorry about it.
That looks silly. Hmm. Got some clipping going on.
Yeah, it's actually not really due to overflow or anything. Well, maybe it is. It's the background radial gradient is just too large.
Gotcha.
Scale it down. Good way to just guessing at the numbers.
Hey Shaw,
Hi.
is it Yanni or Laurel?
So it has changed for me. Uh,
Yeah, it's changed.
yes.
Interesting.
So when I first listened, let me see. I was using headphones, and it was Yanni, but I could make out Laurel, and if I really focused, I could make it Laurel. And then
Okay.
and then listening earlier on just like my phone speaker, I could hear and could not hear Yanni. So to me, I'm pretty sure it's all just based on the frequency range your speakers are outputting and your ears are capable of hearing.
Yeah. Because the funny thing is, I've never heard Yanni. Yeah, I've never heard Yanni ever. It's always been, you know, the other one. Always been Laurel.
Feel free to share in the chat which one you hear. If you don't know what we're talking about, count yourself lucky.
Funny enough, someone actually made a code pen, regarding the difference, which I thought was pretty cool.
Huh. Lan and BR heard Laurel. Good tootsie. Yeah, I'm not crazy. I did hear Yanni for a while. Don't know where it went. I can pull it up here and play it for you guys if you haven't already. David, you won't hear it, but
That's okay.
Laurel. 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 Laurel.
They have a remix?
I don't know, some auto playing video started going. Listening through these headphones, I oh, what a world we live in.
I wonder if you could do debug mode on collab mode.
You might be able to pull it up. Chris will know.
Hmm.
certain features do not work with collab mode yet. Add in like the ability to like the full page mode or the live view of it, so that, or even just combining the collab mode and the presentation mode, or collab mode and professor mode, so that everybody could be looking at the code instead of just staring at it.
Mm-hmm.
And some crazy overflow.
So I'm discovering something interesting, which here is that if you have like a crazy tiny number, such as you know, like in JavaScript, it'll be like 7 or 1.712 blah 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 blah, and then E, and then something like -41, and so that represents a very small number.
Yes.
So I need to control. I think CSS will freak out at those big numbers, I'm discovering. So yeah, so I had to figure out a better solution for that. And so I'm looking it up now. If you have any suggestions in the chat, then
wouldn't math dot, well, you're using math dot floor, right?
What's up? Or
yeah, you've got math dot floor in the progress. I don't know what you're doing there.
Yeah, I could probably use toFixed. Okay, I'm going to use toFixed. And we're only going to do 2 decimal places because that's what makes the most sense. Parse float. Fixed 2. All right, let's see if this solves my problems. Oh wait, just kidding. It makes my problems worse.
See.
But it makes them worse in a good way. It's one of those things where it's like, now I get a different error, which is good. But no, this is still not good.
Should you do the math dot round out of the toFixed?
No, I think it's fine there. I think, yeah, I think there's just probably, because going up, this works sort of great. I just had to fix the opacity. That thing's going wrong. So yeah, I have to think about that. And so this is very much probably a CSS variables problem. Not a problem, not one that I can't solve. It's just a little bit tricky to think about. So it's going up, totally fine. What if we make this a speedometer that only sped up, right? That's a feature, right? I think some of the old Toyota cars had that feature. They were sued for such a feature, but it was still a feature.
Yeah. Problematic.
Yeah. This is almost working. Almost working is almost as good as working. We could work with almost working. So if you all want to know, I'm basically using CSS variables to control whether the number goes up or down. And I'm using what I added num progress, that CSS variable. And so all that is whatever the number is, which like the raw number, the decimal number, subtracted from the floor of that number. And so then you get a number between 0 and 1. And so you could use that to go up or down.
Couldn't you just compare the initial value versus the changed value?
Yeah, you could. You know what? I'm going to do that. I read somewhere once that it's like if something isn't working, then whatever you're doing, even if you're, physically doing it in person, just do something completely different. Like even if it's take your computer to a different room or something, right? Or like go to a coffee shop or something, just like a change of scenery, just because it helps your mind sort of get out of that cycle that you're in that's continuously producing the wrong answer for you.
Yeah.
It's just a bit of coding philosophy for you there.
Free advice here. Okay. Set low hidden on the body. Those numbers are making jump for me. Okay. Here. I'm just looking up the documentation on Radial Gradient. I'm not super familiar with all the syntax.
That one's a tricky one for sure.
trying to think of a good way to get kind of the smoothed off edge of the glow.
Oh, so here's an idea. Once I have the idea, I'll tell you, but here's an idea.
I've got
so you're basically trying to implement like the partial glow technique, right? Where it's like sort of a pie graph
yes.
sort of thing. Okay, cool. So what I'm thinking, how you could build it off of what you have is one part's going to be the smaller slice of the pie, like 45 degrees or so, and the other part is going to be the bigger part. The bigger part, if you make that a black gradient, and you make this, other part a lighter gradient, the blue gradient, and then you do some sort of mixed blend mode there. What do you think? You see where I'm going?
I see where
So
you're
basically,
going.
there's a black gradient, and that's going to, mix blend into the other one.
Or
or you're doing that. Okay. I gotcha. That works too.
That's pretty good. Yes, Gothic Death Eater. It is a speedometer. That's not a timer.
That'd be an interesting timer.
Oh.
And yes, I know my numbers are freaking out right now. I just have to figure out the math. This is why I would love a visual programming language or something where I could just drag and visually inspect. Right now, everything is just in your head. So let's see.
If we need to go to the whiteboard, just let me know.
I'm using pen and paper for now. No worries, no worries. So if we are going up, then delta is, oh nice, yeah, you have a cool cool glow going on.
And
that works.
Do some pseudo element fun.
Okay. 1 to 0. That's -1, which means that, oh, math. That's not. Okay, taking a look here.
find seconds unit scale.
What's an easier way to inspect CSS variables?
Oh, I can show you a little snippet. Very bottom of JavaScript here. Got some delicious little helper functions here.
Cool.
So, what CSS vars do you want to see, and on what element?
All of them.
All of them. Okay.
Yeah, just throw them all out there.
Well, doesn't quite work that way. I'll pull from LApp.
Okay. Here, I'm going to start over from scratch.
And in num progress.
Yeah, I think my num progress thing is a little faulty, so I have to think about how that's going to work.
Show what this does and you'll probably want to hook this into update action.
Right. I think I got an idea. Do I have an idea?
Smooth. Often. Okay. Now, whenever it settles, you should be able to see live CSS var values.
Oh, where would I see them?
In the console.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, hey.
Oh, yeah, I have some extra logs going on. Sorry about that. See, this is very helpful for me.
Yes. So this little helper function is super rad. It allows you to dump CSS variables from multiple elements and view them in the console in a nice little handy console.table. You can see them all
Cool.
side by side.
Very, very cool.
And it mostly works even if the variables have calc in them. Quite handy.
It's pretty awesome.
Thought so.
All right, let's try this translating thing again one more time. There's so many different values that we have to account for, like number one, the delta between speeds, which if you took physics class or intro to whatever, it's velocity. And so we're using that to determine the direction which this speedometer is going to go. So let's see, translate y. So basically we want the speed coming in from the bottom if it's going up, and we want it coming from the top if it's going down. So that's sort of the math that I'm working with right now. Yeah, on this show we do not do easy animations. We like to like to give ourselves a little bit of a challenge.
Yeah. Take off. Probably from all that console.
Oh god, I have a really funny animation going on now as I'm trying to figure this out. Just play with it. You'll see what's going on.
Well, the numbers
so
certainly are coming in.
That's not what we want. No, not at all. Smooth values. Hmm.
Infinite.
How's the glowing going?
Tell me.
Yeah, it's looking great. In the actual animation, looks like a little bit more solid. So
Yeah, I'm trying to give it a little bit of a variance. If you look at it slowly, it has a little bit of a edge to it, or just kind of some ribs.
mm-hmm. Let's see if that looks. Yeah, that.
So what is this speed CSS var? What is that?
So speed, that's the actual value.
And
yeah.
progress is how close it is to the max from 0 to 1.
Right. And so, yeah, I should probably name that something different, but I won't right now. Because
Yeah.
num progress, that's like the intermediate progress, like between numbers as the numbers are settling in. And so that's used to position the number correctly. Right now, it's incorrect. So that's what I'm working on figuring out as we speak. I'm sure a lot of you do this too, where you just like you stare at the code and hopefully something comes from it. Sort of what I'm doing right now.
What's the highest math you've taken, David?
Like differential equations. Yeah. But funny enough, I never took physics. Yeah, did you?
No. So, gosh,
Never physics.
I want to say the highest math I've taken is maybe calculus.
Okay.
Algebra 2 might have been in my max. There.
Hmm. What if I just do this? Okay, well, delta is not what we want. Funny enough, the speedometer only goes up in the animation. So if my code glitches and only goes up, then that's just staying true to the animation.
Sure.
But of course, I'll try to make it not do that. Maybe.
What is progress when it's 0?
When it's 0, it's 0. Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
Okay, well, then that's your answer.
So I'm trying to get it so the animation is faster, a little more energetic whenever it speeds up, and it works great when it is not 0.
Hmm.
Are the CSS vars getting applied when the value hasn't changed, like on the initial one?
Are the CSS vars getting applied?
Okay. So we needed some default CSS vars there, because I don't think the var is actually getting applied until the first value change.
Oh, okay.
So that thing. Yeah. I left you to the numbers.
Yeah, it's a pretty tricky part. But I am getting there, I promise.
Hello.
Hmm. Right now, I'm just playing around with the numbers and seeing what works. But once I figure it out, then I could explain it. But for now, it's a lot of playing around, seeing if we could get this to actually behave correctly. Hmm. Okay, let's just do that.
Okay, I'm seeing the numbers fade.
Yeah,
got some fading
which
happening.
is a little glitchy for now, but yeah. Nothing's wrong with glitchy.
Roboto is pretty close to the font we need here. But I think I want to go with Oswald.
So I have a question about the gradient. In the animation, like it looks like it's growing. Can we do that?
So the size of the gradient kind of growing from the start to the current position of the needle, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, if we focus on doing the whatchamacallit, the ticks reveal, the little tick marks that happen, I think we can utilize some of that code to make the kind of growing, because otherwise.
Gotcha. Right. So for now, I'm going to actually, by the way, if I die off the stream for whatever reason, it's because my hard drive, like I keep getting this, your disk is almost full messages. So you'll know why I die if that happens. Like why I suddenly disappear. Maybe it's because I'm also running 2 virtual machines at the same time.
Why are you running virtual machines right now?
Because I'm supporting Linux for Visual Studio Live Share, and I probably should have turned those off beforehand. Yeah, so for now, I am going to just focus on the current speed, and I'm not sure why it's, oh, I should probably turn off the opacity. Yeah, because I really want to get into the mouse movement part. And so we could definitely refine this later as we go. Plus, if you look at the new Tesla cars, Model S, Model X, really cool UIs. This is exactly how their speedometers work as well. They don't do anything fancy other than up. Yeah, with mouse speed, you just drag your mouse across the touch, or drag your finger across the touch screen, and there you go. But yeah, so I want to make this based on mouse speed. So that's what I'm going to do. And it's going to be a lot of fun because even though right now we're basing it off of the range, we do not need to change a lot of JavaScript. And that's one of the best things about RxJS.
Performance here and see how badly my background animation. Calculate style, update layer tree. CSS var.
Yeah, don't mind me. I'm just shutting down my virtual machines right now. Yeah, this is fun. I need a bigger hard drive.
What kind of computer do you run, David?
I own the those like really, really good Macs that just came out in 2015. Yeah.
Really good is objective.
What, do you have the newer ones?
I do, and there are positives and negatives.
I also have a Surface Book, which I will not talk about.
because you have so many good things to say about it.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. I injured my shoulder a while back, and you know, I went to physical therapy, and they had this sort of electrolysis sort of thing, you know, just to, you know, help with the pain and stuff like that. Um, just very mild electric shocks that, you know, made your muscles tingle, and yeah, just really helps with the pain. So I guess that could be one positive from this Surface Book that I'm sure they didn't intend, but it does give me mild electric shocks. So so there is that. Yeah. Got that going for me.
Sound.
Oh yeah. All right, I am shutting off my virtual machines, and then I am going to do the mouse speed thing, which I think is going to be the most fun part because you're going to be able to just move your mouse like crazy across the screen. And yeah, and I'll explain how that works in a bit. But yeah, my computer is going really slow, so just clearing a few things. I don't think it's this pen.
It is not the most performant that we.
Yeah. So I'll talk about my strategy a little bit for the mouse thing. What I'm going to do is we're going to just listen to every mouse move event, and we're going to take the client's X and the client's Y positions. So basically the X and Y positions of the mouse. And we're going to calculate the distance. If you remember from algebra or calculus or geometry or whatever, the distance is what is the distance? Oh yeah, like the delta x plus the squared plus the delta y squared, and you take the square root of that. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. I recognize some of those words, yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, so basically we're going to find the distance between each of the mouse moves. And from that, we could calculate the speed of the mouse. Yeah, and then we could work on a Chrome extension, which is sort of like a cop. And so we could have a speed trap where if you move your mouse too fast, we could just like show an alert on the page. Like move your mouse slower. That's my plan. Oh, you're doing the whole pulsing thing. Cool.
Do at least.
Now, are you going to be basing the pulse off of the CSS variables too?
You betcha.
Awesome. So you have that bit of reactivity, which is pretty nice. What's broken? Everything.
Just the input tracking.
So there's math.height makes it really useful to find the distance between two values, because it's basically the hypotenuse of a right triangle. So yeah, pretty cool. And that, that's exactly what we want to find. So or if things are broken, it's because I'm wrestling with parentheses.
Yeah.
It's always fun. Something else is wrong. Oh, come on, what's wrong? Oh man, I forgot to set Babel syntax on this JavaScript. Oops. Yeah, we gotta remember to do that. Otherwise, I will be yelled at.
That is important.
Yep.
Battling parentheses down there. Want my CSS to update.
Okay. Now it should work. Oh, yes, I'm getting the speed. That's amazing. All right. Oh, wow. And that actually wasn't that hard. And I'll explain that. But yeah, these values that I got from the range, now instead of getting them from the range, I could just get them from the, I'm going to call this mouse speed. So const values equals mouse speed. And then I had to comment this out just for reference. And you'll see a nice, beautiful nan over here, which is great.
Yep. Good one.
Don't worry. I got this. Okay, move your mouse around. Yes.
Whoa. Hey there.
We should do like a high score sort of thing. Like, how fast can you move your mouse?
Yeah, that's I can almost put it up there. I feel like it needs to have a little bit of I don't know, the way it accumulates or the way it increases and decreases maybe a little slower. So like you have to sustain a speed to get the needle to go up, if that makes sense.
No.
Well, right now it's a very instant response, but I'm almost wondering like if you have to shake your cursor back and forth to get it to build up speed, basically.
You pretty much. Well, I mean, that the speed is the speed. Like, there's a very defined way of doing the speed. If that makes sense. That makes no sense.
I know. I'm just talking in terms of like what would be most fun versus what is the real speed.
We're not really allowed to have fun on this show.
Sorry.
Dead straight. Did everything disappear for you?
No.
Okay.
I'm doing fine here.
Okay. Yeah, there we go.
Oh, hey, if you if you get your cursor off the page really quickly, it shoots up to large numbers.
I know. Whoa, that's actually pretty crazy. Oh, this is going to be really fun to show.
Yeah, so we might need to set a higher max than 100. Maybe like
yeah, and
200
also
is my high so far. 300 probably the max is. It's fairly easy to get 400 actually.
Is it?
Yeah, get 400. Maybe even dropping that to 500. By dropping, I mean. Be satisfying to throw the mouse off the screen.
Yeah, man, this is pretty fun. Did you change you changed the max speed. Man, you're making this difficult. Making it hard mode. Yeah. So I'm thinking right now. Because with mouse move, you sometimes have this thing where it like sticks to like 7 miles an hour, 8 miles an hour, pixels an hour, pixels a minute, whatever it ends up being.
PPM.
Yeah, where it sticks to like 12 or something, and we don't really want that. So yeah.
As soon as you stop your mouse, it seems to freeze.
Right, yeah. And so that's not the code's fault. That's just like how the mouse events work, where it's like it's not going to update. So I'm just going to force it to update. And so I'm sort of thinking about how to do that. I'm sure there's an RxJS way to do it. And so while you're adding the cool little colorings, I'm going to think about it. So I think you in order to help us.
You broke up on that. What did you say?
I think we could use what's called debouncing to help with that.
We could also have it just updating every animation frame, and then the mouse move events only.
You know, we could
actually,
do that.
It seems to be working now. I know.
Wait, really? No, I think for some instances you'll still see it stick, especially if you move your mouse fast enough. But yeah, what you were saying about the animation frame is right on the money. So, all right, so I know exactly how to do this. All right, so mouse moves, and mouse speeds. Oops. Move. So this ticks thing, we're going to move up, 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 up. And then we're going to okay, yeah, I think we got it.
Is there an SCSS equivalent to the fade function?
An SCSS equivalent to the fade function. What's the fade function, first of all?
To change like just a hex value to an RGBA with a lesser capacity.
I'm not entirely sure, to be honest with you. All right, perfect. So now you will see that it goes to 0. At least I hope so. Yeah. It's gonna go to 0 all the time now. Wow, it is really hard to get like to 500 or whatever you set it to. I don't even know how you did it.
Well, now that it's constantly ticking down, that might be part of it. Let's see.
This is a really fun one.
To 150. A bit more responsiveness. Can't get that high. Whoa.
Sorry, I'm screwing with the scale.
Okay, the needle was scaling for me. I was trying to figure out what
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I need to wrap on this one soon.
Yeah. And I feel like we got a pretty cool effect going on.
Yeah. Spot.
Mm-hmm. Well, that won't work.
add some glow.
Yeah, just adding like a nice big, wow, I did this completely wrong. Nope.
Right track. Where are you? Needle.
Ah, there we go. Where am I? I'm in the space needle, or sorry, the speed needle. I'm not in Seattle. I sort of want to do a mixed blend mode on this too.
Oh, you're using box shadow.
Yeah. What's wrong with that?
So, no. That's fine. You know, I would actually suggest using can't have another radial gradient.
Yeah, but I mean, mixed blend mode really helps a lot here. Darken. Darken won't do anything, will it? That's still a cool effect.
More like overlay is probably what we want.
Try that. Yeah. Oh yeah, I like that. It's a nice like glowing effect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it makes it feel like really ethereal and stuff. We just heard some speeding going on. So
yes, trying to match the mouse speed.
all right, cool. Well, I think that we have a really good thing going on here.
Okay. Well, in that case, I think it is time to move to Keyflections. So this is the portion of the show where we go back and keyflect over what we've built and quickly explain some of the concepts we used. So let's go back and watch the original here really quick to just have a point of comparison. There's obviously a lot more dynamic stuff happening here, and you know, given some more time, we could have played with some of those things. But for knocking this out in 2 hours, that's we have kind of taken the key components of it and made a really nice little mouse speedometer here. We'll come up with a catchier title for it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Where do you want to start, David?
Let's start with the number updating stuff with RxJS, just because that sort of is the core of the entire thing.
Yes.
All right. So we'll go into the JavaScript. The
Also,
first thing
if you have any questions as we go, just ask in the chat. We'll be happy to answer. This one we didn't explain everything as we were going, so there's probably a few things that seem a little mysterious.
Yeah. So here's the first one. First of all, each one of these, especially each variable that ends with a $sign, and that's just a convention, that's going to represent a stream of values that come in over time. So think of it as an array, except each value of the array comes in over time. So this one represents each of the mouse moves, the X and Y position of each of each mouse position. This ticks thing is an animation frame. So basically it ticks, doesn't matter what value it is, but it ticks every animation frame, which is about 16, 17 milliseconds. This has no purpose. I don't know why I put there. The lerp thing I explained earlier, it's just a way of smoothly going from one value to another, where instead of you going directly from, like, say, 1 to 2, you're going to go from 1 to maybe 1.5 to 1.75 to 1.875, and you're going to eventually get closer to 2. And so that's how that lerping works. And that's why we multiply it by a fraction. So if I multiplied it by 0.5, it'll look sort of like that. But I multiply it by 0.05, which means it's going to take an even longer time. And that's because I really want to get like a nice smooth effect. So this smooth value thing is doing a bunch of things. First, we're getting the latest animation, or we're carrying the current value of the mouse every animation frame. So you could think of this as just making sure that we get a mouse position every single animation frame, even if it's the same one, doesn't matter. And then we scan. So what this does is it updates every, it updates like just this state every single mouse position we get. And I'm using this specifically to calculate the speed. And I'm using this math.hypot, which is a hypotenuse function, which takes the distance between the last x's and the distance between the last y's and calculates the total distance between two mouse points. And so that's going to be represented in the speed, which of course starts at 0. We grab the speed and we lerp it. So if something is going from 0 to 60 miles an hour, we want the speedometer to smoothly show it going from 0 to 60. And so that's what this lerp function is doing. We needed smooth rounded values in order to not show decimals. And so all we're doing is we're rounding the number and making sure we don't emit the same value so that we don't render when we don't need to render. The number progress I don't think is used, or actually it might be used. The number progress, it basically shows like, actually no, it's not being used. Just ignore that. Actually, we could ignore both of these unless they're being used. We'll find out. Let's comment them out and see. No, they're not really being used. Okay, so you could ignore that, which is good because we don't want to confuse people. Now, this subscribe is how everything works, or like how things actually happen in RxJS. When you subscribe to these value changes, you could do stuff with those values. So in this case, we're setting it to a CSS variable, this dash dash progress. And this progress represents how far we are, or how close we are to the max speed, from 0 to 1, 1 being the max speed. These smooth rounded values from over here, we're setting these to the CSS variables too. This previous speed is not used. I might go back and play around with it, but the main two things are these two right here. So these, that's the worst comment in the world. These are the only things that matter right now in this life.
You had pretty close to what we were looking for.
Sort of.
You were just stuck on the direction change.
Yeah, the math was getting tricky, so I'm gonna have to like sit down and think about that. These are a bunch of helper functions which we don't need anymore. Should I delete them? I'm gonna delete them.
Sure.
Just to make things simpler, and to show you that this is like less than 70 lines of code. And like I'm even doing things like just making sure that these are on separate lines for readability. But yeah, so that's how the number is updating. And because we're setting these to CSS variables, we could play around with them as Shaw did and as I did, however we want in the CSS. So I'll leave it to you, Shaw, to explain how we did that.
So just going back to our HTML here, it's all pretty simple. We don't even need this input type equals range anymore, and we have a few elements. We have somebody asking if we can keep the CSS var debug. I'll drop that back in.
Yeah. So the answer is absolutely.
David.
Okay.
Yes. There's. I'll add a comment. I've been live while talking. Fun. Okay. Yes. So going back to the HTML, nothing too crazy here. The main thing is just adding a few extra elements to create all these different little pieces. The tick marks here are just a super simple SVG with a circle in it, and I'll show you the CSS there. I'm looking, of course. My goodness. Okay, there we go. And so to create the ticks, I just have the stroke and a stroke dash array to create the spacing in between each of them, and that gives a really great effect. This background here, wow, it's really hard to point to things with your mouse when everything's moving around. The kind of dotted background here that's moving and accelerates with your speed is set up down here. Speed BG steady. The naming convention is all very exact to this. It doesn't really have much meaning. The kind of donut effect is really just a radial gradient. We comment out the background clip. You can see how that is actually in place. And then with the background clip text and all of these dots in here, we get that nice little halftone kind of effect, which is decently close to the original.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be perfect.
Right. I'm going to slow it down a little bit so it's not as intense. Speed up a little bit as you move your mouse. Good with that. And there's just 2 layers to that to give it a little bit more of that dynamic. And the next piece, the needle, just speed needle here. We go up in our CSS. It's just very simply a height 50%, width 4 pixels, and give it a nice linear linear gradient. We can up the radial gradient, which
wait, you removed the glow?
I did. Well, see, the problem with the glow to me is the radial gradient is fading out to transparent around and so the glow is not actually following that. So yes, if you do that with a pseudo element that's more sized properly,
hey, I need this glow. I really do.
Go right ahead. I don't know if the blend mode will work as well. It being a
well, yeah. What if we moved this then to here?
Maybe.
Did that screw up things? Oh wait.
Okay.
Yeah. See, index 1. It should be on top. Why is it still showing as black? Huh.
Why is... Oh.
You see the... Actually, no. You
Oh,
know
yeah, I know. We just need...
yeah, but now we have the black on the inside.
Yeah, I'm just sizing it down a little bit more, and it'll...
Okay, yeah. Oh, yeah.
There we go.
Wow, now it looks better. All right, let's continue. Cool. Sorry.
And then you're just populating the speed value with the data attribute in the speed container, which is great.
Yeah.
these little fancy glows on the outside. I'm pointing at the screen because you all can obviously see that. These glows hanging out on the outer edge, kind of following the needle, are set up here. Again, well, I initially tried doing the radial gradient, but if we go back to the original, you can see how they kind of have these smooth edges, and would have loved to have made them grow with the increase in speed, but for time's sake, what I did is added a border bottom, which if you have border radius 50% or any kind of rounded border and only a border on one side, it gives a nice little tapered kind of moon shape. And then by adding the blur to that, you end up with a nice, beautiful little faded out piece and a small transition on those that just kind of allows it to catch up to whatever the current value is. And then I added a similar border bottom moon shape, but with border style dashed, to give it a little bit of a wobble in the shape, kind of like the original here. And then
that's cool.
The last thing is that pulse animation, which again, it's just another radial gradient with a CSS animation where it goes from opacity 0 to opacity 1 and scales up at the same time. And then the animation duration is being controlled by the CSS variable. That as you go faster, it should be speeding up, which it actually doesn't respond as well as the input range because the value is changing so rapidly. But that's right.
Yeah, and we could modify those later with ArcsJS. There are so many little details in this animation that we weren't able to get to all of them, but I think we got a really cool little reactive animation going on here.
Indeed. Well, anything else you wanted to cover on this one?
Well, I'm really frustrated because I cannot get past 60. Like, as fast as I move my mouse, I just maybe fit. Yeah, no, I can't.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can. I can't.
No, I'm capping out about 60 now that we have the constant drain.
Yeah, we should make this public and see how fast our viewers can get this.
Yeah, it might be capped, which that might be related to your animation frame call and how quickly it's pulling down. Just wondering why it would be capped at 60 other than subtracting 60 frames a second. But anyway, yeah, I think we can start wrapping this one up.
Let's do it.
Get some theme music in here. You've been watching Keyframers, the animated collaborative coding live stream where we bring imaginative user interfaces to life. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to see more from David and I, there are many ways you can support us. You can donate now at streamlabs.com/keyframers. You can follow and subscribe on Twitch at twitch.tv/keyframers. And we'd love for you to participate in live streams each week with us. You can also like and subscribe on YouTube at youtube.com/keyframers. That's where all of our video archives will be, since Twitch only keeps the streams for 2 weeks. You can also spread the word and support us on Patreon at patreon.com/keyframers.
Yeah. Also, follow us on Twitter and Twitch at Keyframers to get notified when we will be streaming next. It's usually every week. Actually, it has been every week. We've made damn sure of that. Yes. Video of the stream will be available soon, so keep an eye on the at Keyframers Twitter for this link, especially the CodePet link, because we want to see how fast you can move your mouse. Can you break that Can you hit 100? I can't hit 100. I know maybe if I had a real mouse. But yeah, if you want to see something fun like this, or maybe have another idea, then we do accept other ideas and submissions for future episodes. So tweet at Keyframers with any animations that you would like to see made. You can also present questions or challenges or just things like that to us, and we will try our best to answer on air, either us or Chris Coyer.
Yes, hopefully so. Well, yeah, we appreciate you guys joining us, and until next time, keep animating.
Yeah, adios.